Hello everybody. So a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, I did a live Handbrakes to Health event. And the Handbrakes to Health event was awesome. It sold out, full of my favorite people. And we looked at what stuff may be slowing down your results. Your health results or your weight loss results. What is a handbrake on your results? And we spent about 2.5 hours going over all these different things. What could be a handbrake and how do they work? So this video is just going to summarize it really quickly, I hope. So we looked at insulin resistance. We looked at thyroid health. We also looked at gut bugs. Some minds were blown when we looked at the gut bugs and the studies showing how gut bugs can be slowing down our results. We also looked at how our body produces energy, how stress affects the body, sleep, oxygen, water, malnutrition is a big thing that people don't even realize. People starving themselves into obesity, especially with I'm not going to say the fasting craze because I love fasting, but you know when a new kind of thing comes out of the health industry and everyone hops on board, but the majority of people do it wrong. And this is where malnutrition can come in, and this is where people can starve themselves into obesity. So we looked at all of this, and I wrote it down because I wrote down the topics. I have a tendency to ramble when I do these videos, and I want to keep this as short as possible. We also looked at sun as well and how that impacts the body. So at the Handbrakes to Health, there was a lot of talk about one of the key players to what could be slowing down your results, and that being hormones and hormone imbalances. So hormones including insulin, leptin, not so much ghrelin, another hormone called neuropeptide Y, which can influence how your body uses food and perceives food. And estrogen was a big one. We look at estrogen a lot. And I'm not just saying this, but estrogen dominance, I feel, is on a rampage. So I believe in 2010 or so it was declared that obesity was now an epidemic, and the majority of that was correlated to some sort of insulin resistance syndrome. And I believe that it won't be very long before they declare that some of the metabolic diseases around now are going to be highly driven by estrogen dominance. So when one has estrogen dominance, they will have a lot of these kind of markers, biomarkers or symptoms, where we'll see a lot of weight around the backs of the arms, the low belly, the hips, the butt. So like these stubborn fat pockets. These women, men can get estrogen dominant too. Looking at women first, women will have heavy, painful periods. Endometriosis can arise then from having estrogen dominance. Also, a lot of inflammation and swelling. Migraines can be very regular occurrence for someone with estrogen dominance. High cravings. Gut dysbiosis, so gut issues, can be very common with estrogen dominance as well. And crazy mood swings, like crazy mood swings. And you really want to get a hold on this, especially if you're in your like 20s and 30s, because unfortunately, as we get older and we start to hit menopause, our sex hormones do drop, but unluckily for us, estrogen is the last one to drop. So it's slower. So we start losing progesterone and testosterone a lot faster. So you want to nip that in the bud now if you can. Now, estrogen does have many beneficial aspects to it, like estrogen is important for building bone and for creating new skin and collagen production, and keeping the immune system strong. So it is awesome for that. But it's when we step over into that excess zone, that we start to have a problem. And I did mention endometriosis, and just as a side note, most people associate endometriosis as um, a concern that will happen in and around the uterus or the female organs. What happens is when the body creates too much estrogen, it's going to start putting that estrogen somewhere else, and it's going to start creating tissue in other parts of the body. You can get endometrious tissue growing in your knees. It's been shown to grow in the brain. The body will just put that extra estrogen wherever it can. So endometriosis is not confined to just the uterus or the female reproductive organs. You can get this endometrial tissue growing anywhere in the body, and it's quite painful. And then these women that are very estrogen dominant, they get the severe pains around period from all this tissue releasing and all the blood clotting, and their blood gets stickier and gooier, so it's harder to travel through the body, and hence we get migraines and mood issues and all that. So it's important to understand that estrogen can be a handbrake to help, because estrogen, it has its own little circle, and fat cells, unfortunately, create estrogen. And they don't do anything nice with it. What they do is they pass it to the neighboring fat cell, who then makes more estrogen, who passes it to the next. And there's this vicious cycle that goes on with estrogen dominance. Now, when we have estrogen dominance, we generally have a big rise in inflammation. So the body's puffy and sore and just don't feel good. And when we have a big rise in inflammation, we usually have an increase in insulin resistance as well. When we have an increase in insulin resistance, we generally create more fat cells, which create more estrogen, and the circle continues. Now, while this circle is going on, that then leads us into like our thyroid health. So when estrogen and inflammation and all that's going on, the body goes into a stress mode. Once the body goes into a stress mode, it's going to slow your thyroid down. And your thyroid is going to start to struggle, and your metabolism will slow down. Once that all happens, then we start stepping into more malnutrition and gut issues and liver issues and stuff like that. And guess what all that does? That all contributes to insulin resistance. So it's all connected. And I always say that we are one system, we are one body. We have to address everything. Now, the best ways, so we've looked at estrogen dominance. How do we fix that, Shemaine? Well, we can look at fasting. We can look at building muscle. Obviously, we want to lose weight. We want to lose fat cells, because we understand that those fat cells are constantly creating more estrogen. We want to be consuming like chelators or estrogen binding foods that'll help the body detox the estrogen. So we're looking at like cilantro. It can be very effective. Broccoli sprouts, daikon radish, all very effective at binding to the estrogen. And then we also, if we're binding to estrogen, we want to make sure the body is getting rid of it effectively. So we need to have our liver working really well. If our liver works really well, our thyroid will be supported too. With detoxing estrogen, we want to make sure our bowels and our gut are working really well. Because what can happen is once the poop is made in your lower bowels, the bacteria can recycle that estrogen and pump it back into the bloodstream. So if you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, they're going to recycle that estrogen and just send it back into your body. So everything really needs to be in some sort of homeostasis, so that when that estrogen is in the poop, you're eliminating it. You're like getting it the hell out of your body as quickly as you can. So that's super important. I have recipes and posts coming out my ears on my Facebook page and in my biohacking group on helping with estrogen dominance, and podcasts too. So next, insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, insulin issues have been declared as the main driving factor behind most diseases now, unfortunately, because insulin is associated with a high consumption of sugars and crappy foods, and then of course inflammation, and then inflammation damages cells. Once we get damaged cells and we're not healing or repairing them properly, they of course are going to keep building and building and building and accumulating into a lot of damaged cells, which then can turn out to be cancer or plaque or whatever else it may be. So we really want to get a hold on insulin as quickly. And a lot of the time, it's just these insulin spikes throughout the day that people don't realize that are happening, that are slowing down their results. I don't want to get too much into it, but this is where we look at like PPAR receptors throughout the body and a mechanism called AMPK. And I have posts about these in more detail in my biohacking Facebook group, so go look there for more details. But these spikes throughout the day are sending signals to your receptors saying, burn this, burn that, don't do this, don't do that. So when we look at your first meal of the day, if weight loss is your goal and you want to improve insulin resistance, you definitely don't want to be having sugar in your first meal, because that's going to immediately signal those PPAR receptors, and it's going to say, here's sugar, burn sugar for fuel, don't burn fat, just store fat. And the more then you have these spikes throughout the day, you're constantly getting this flux of sugar and insulin being released by the pancreas, and it's constantly bombarding the cells. And you know what becomes resistant to the insulin and the glucose? It's your muscle cells. It's not your fat cells. Your fat cells are like, come on in, we're having a party in here. Your muscle cells are saying, no, I'm full up on glycogen, I cannot take any more. So you'll keep getting fatter while your most important tissues are becoming resistant. You do not want this. We need, like I said, some sort of nice homeostasis going throughout the body. So fasting, watching your insulin spikes, being super smart about food timing and your supplements and your exercise. So putting on some lean muscle mass has been shown to be one of the best ways to improve insulin resistance. In my opinion, I would say that combined with a good intermittent fasting protocol or a good fasting protocol, combine both of those and you're onto a winner. Now, obviously, it takes time to get sick or to get 50, 60, 100 pounds overweight or to become insulin resistant. So it all takes time. So we accept it will take time to undo a lot of that. Not as long as you think, especially in regards to hormones. Obviously, that depends on how severe your hormone imbalance is, but for the majority, it's pretty fast. If you're following a nice protocol consistently over a nice amount of time, you can see some very nice improvements. So then all of this affects the thyroid, all of it. So from malnutrition to liver issues to gut issues, all of that, any sort of stress is going to affect the thyroid. You really need to love your thyroid. You need to give it a hug. You need to give it loads of care. You gotta love your body. You know, if you love your body and you want to be your optimal you, it makes this journey a lot easier, because your choices are always based on, is this going to be good for my body, or is it going to jeopardize my health or make me even worse? So you want to always be loving your thyroid. Again, I've done podcasts and posts, so I don't want to get into it, but that is going to be one of your handbrakes to health. I suppose the easiest way to monitor if you have a thyroid issue would be body temperature. So just monitoring your body temperature, you want to be in and around the 36.8, 37 mark, which is pretty high for a lot of people, but that kind of gives you an indication. Even if you're hitting 36.5, you're like, I'm in a good range, my thyroid is doing good. But if you find that you're generally cold a lot and have circulation problems, chances are your thyroid is suffering. And it may not be like a clinical thyroid issue, but there may be something going on there. And it may not specifically be the thyroid. It may be that you're malnutritioned, or you have an overgrowth of gut bugs, or your liver's not detoxifying. properly, or you're not methylating properly, which means you're not converting or using compounds properly within the body and within the cell. So that can be a handbrake to health. Apart from temperature, another one would be hair loss, even loss of hair at the edge of the eyebrows. That will be another one. Thyroid has always been an issue for me. I feel it's a debt I have to pay from years ago when I was overweight and I just destroyed my health. And I understand that because I did so much damage to myself, I do have a debt I have to pay. And now it is my thyroid. So I really have to stay on top of my game with my thyroid. And it's something I'm always conscious of. Always, all the time, my choices are that. Just so I don't put a handbrake on my results. So then next, we spoke about malnutrition. I suppose I'll touch on this a little bit. So malnutrition happens so easily. So easily. I did a macros video a while ago, and I spoke about certain minerals, specifically ones that are very important for the thyroid, your zinc, your selenium, magnesium, and iodine, that are water soluble. So that means they get depleted every day, and they need to be repleted every day. So you constantly need to be refilling your cup all the time. So if you're not only is that an easy way to put yourself into malnutrition, but a lot of people abusing fasting. That's an easy way to put yourself into malnutrition, because a lot of people don't understand how fasting works and how it works properly. And that fasting will only be effective in regards to weight loss and good health if when you do eat, you're eating very good nutrient dense foods. But if you're fasting for like 16 hours and then you're like, well, I've been fasting for 16 hours, so now I'm just going to eat whatever I want. So I'm going to have cupcakes and pizza for dinner. That's devoid of nutrition. That's like your body, you eat that, your body's like, what the hell is this? I can't do anything with this. So it just will either poop it out or will convert it into fat cells. But there's no nutrition in it. So you do this over a long amount of time, you're going to step over into malnutrition. Nasty things happen when you go into malnutrition. It's obviously not good for your internal health. So the stuff inside you that you can't see. But your external health, your skin is going to look crappy, you're going to struggle with energy, you're going to be fatigued, your hair will break, your nails will break, your gums will bleed, periods go off. Like, it's a mess, let's just say that. And malnutrition can happen really easily. And even people that think they're eating clean, they can still be in malnutrition because they may only be focused on macronutrients and not on micronutrients, and then all the subcomponents of the micronutrients and how they work in the body. And two of my favorite topics are modbiotics and search foods. I talk about them all the time because I believe they're so important. And if you're not aware of these or actively focused on these, you can step into malnutrition. So, and then, while on the topic of malnutrition, you've obviously got your essential vitamins and nutrients that you need. And that means your body can't produce them themselves. And if you don't get them, you're going to die. That's what essential means. And some of those essential vitamins that people totally forget about. Vitamin O, oxygen. Obviously, it's essential. If you don't have oxygen, you're going to die. And in regards to weight loss, oxygen is a key player because in order to lose weight, we need fatty acid oxidation to happen. We need oxidation. And in order for fatty acids, so fat cells, to be broken down, we need oxygen to come in there and to combine with the fat. That brings on the fatty acid oxidation within the cells. So within the mitochondria, where it converts all that into energy, or ATP, for you to use as fuel. So if you don't have oxygen, you got an issue there. So one of the simplest ways to kind of drive this home to people is walking on a treadmill will never ever compare to walking outdoors in fresh air or doing a hike up a hill. Like, it'll never compare because it's different oxygen and your body will use it differently and the air pressure is differently. So vitamin O is super important. And then there's the two vitamin S's. So number one being sleep. If you don't sleep, you're going to die. If you do not sleep, you'll die. If your sleep is off, you're going to get very inflamed. When my sleep is off, don't even look at me. My brain gets so inflamed, I can't think, I get cranky. I get so inflamed in my brain that I get a temperature, like the heat is coming out of my brain. I need my 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. Like, I need that. Once you don't have enough sleep, your body's going to not be able to produce energy effectively. You're going to drive up cravings. Your metabolism is going to slow down. You're obviously going to be less motivated to stay on track and blah, blah, blah. So sleep is a huge player. And then the other vitamin S is going to be sunshine. So sunshine helps our body synthesize vitamin D from cholesterol. And it also helps us create sex hormones, which are super important, especially in the correct ratios. Sunshine also helps with the production of serotonin and the growth of good bacteria. And good bacteria is super important. Serotonin is super important. And good bacteria, they're all over us. They're everywhere. But there's a lot of them in our gut. And it's in our gut where the most of our serotonin is. And now if we're not producing enough serotonin, we're going to get all sad and depressed and suicidal and just not feeling good at all. Making poor food choices. And so everything goes hand in hand. And then, of course, water. Vitamin W, I suppose, or H2O, is super important because you got to make sure the cells are hydrated or they're going to shrivel up and become all gross and not healthy and strong. So you got to have your good quality water. So all of that combined is so important in regards to taking off handbrakes to health. Like your body is one system and you can't really just address one part at a time. You have to constantly be supporting the whole body. You can't just look at one aspect of eating or diet. You have to include everything. Everything has to be ticked. Am I getting sunshine? Am I getting sleep? Am I getting good quality water? Am I not drinking or eating out of plastic? Am I watching what toxins go on my body? Am I eating organic? Like, there's so much. Am I getting my micronutrients? Am I supporting my good health? Yes, it's overwhelming. There's a lot. But it all goes hand in hand. And then the more you get into it, the easier it gets. It's more just wash, rinse, repeat, all the time. And that's what I say to my clients. You don't have to remember everything. It's my job to remember everything. So just ask me if you get stuck or have a question. So the last thing, and I kept this to last, the last thing I wanted to touch a bit more on, and we spoke about this at the Handbrakes to Health, and it really blew people's minds because it's something people don't even think about. And that is gut bugs. So our gut bugs, or our microbiome, they're broken up into all these different subsets of bugs, or phylums. And they all have a different job to do. Dominantly, there are two main subsets of bacteria in our body that will determine if we are lean and healthy and strong, or if we are ugly and overweight and sick. Ugly meaning that your skin is not good, your hair is not good, you're just not looking good at all. So we've got two phylums of bacteria there. So the ones that make us lean and happy and healthy and strong, they're called bacteroides. They're our good bugs. They're the ones we want to have a lot of those, because the more we have of those, the easier our weight loss journey is going to be. And then the other one that makes us overweight and unhealthy, they're called firmicutes. And they're not firmicutes. The reason they're called firmicutes is because they ferment sugars in the gut. They love sugars. They love sugar so much, and carbs. Carbs are sugars and so on. They thrive on them. They drive up cravings. They make you want more sugar, and the more sugar you have, the more they grow and duplicate, and the cycle keeps going on and on and on. And there are studies out there that say these can be passed on. These are contagious species of bacteria. That would mean that fat is contagious. So I'm sure everyone has heard of the study of the mice, where they took poop from a lean mouse or poop from a fat mouse, and they put it into a lean mouse. And although that little lean mouse, he didn't change his eating habits, he's still exercising like a trooper, he became obese because he then had that dominant species of firmicutes in his body. They took over, and they're like, "Mister, you're done." And then vice versa. So how our bacteria are they'll determine how we use nutrition. They'll determine our metabolism. They'll determine our cravings. They determine if we get depressed or moody or anything. Like, they're such a huge player right now, and people aren't getting it. So this study blew people's mind. There was a study done in the States a while ago across loads of gyms across the States. And what they did is they went into the gyms, these scientists, and they took swabs of all the different equipment and machines in the gyms to see what kind of bacteria was dominant on what equipment. And what they saw then was, okay, so the highest counts, or the highest amounts of firmicutes, so those bacteria that make you overweight and unhealthy, were on treadmills and the cross trainers and other machines. So you see people going into the gym all the time, and they're doing hours and hours on the treadmill, and they're working their hardest. And it's not like people are not trying, they're trying their hardest. And what happens then is they're just not getting the results. They're not getting the results they wanted or deserve, because they're recycling the firmicutes. So the firmicutes were found in abundance on the handlebars, and people are touching the handlebars, and maybe they're scratching their face, or they're picking at their mouth or biting their nails if they put their hands on their water, or they're not washing their hands enough. So they're getting this accumulation of other people's firmicutes just all over them, and that's adding to maybe a firmicute overgrowth that they already had themselves. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, they found that the highest amount of Bacteroides, those super amazing little bacteria that keep us feeling good and looking good and super strong, they found that the highest ratios of those were on the free weights, or the dumbbells and the kettlebells. So what this means is that if you see, well, one, when you go to the gym, you probably want to be following around the big weightlifters and the bodybuilders and licking the weights after them, so you pick up all their good bacteria. But two, if you are going to use the treadmills or the stairs or anything like that, you should be going, not only wiping down the equipment, but going and scrubbing your hands. Like, wash your hands properly before you move on to something else. But realistically, if you are using the treadmill or the Stairmaster, you shouldn't be holding on to them at all. The only time your fingers should touch that machine is the button on, off, and speed or whatever. You should not be holding on. It's not doing you any favors. Not only in your balance, but obviously in the bacteria world either. So yeah, the free weights and the kettlebells and all, where we see, when we reflect, the bodybuilders and those lean, athletic-looking people, they usually hang around in those areas. So you should hang around those areas too. But definitely wash your hands more often, especially if you think that you may have picked up extra firmicutes from somewhere. Even like, I don't know, you're out grocery shopping and there's a chance that a severely obese person maybe touched the cart before you wash your hands when you're finished, or at least use a hand sterilizer in your car or something. It's just something to keep in mind that people don't keep in mind. It's the bacteria. Now I do, in some of my podcasts and in my posts in the biohacking group and so on, I do go into more detail about how we can kill off the firmicutes and support the bacteroides, and how we can feed them and make them work in our favor a lot more. And I do have like a modbiotic list, and I do have a lot on search foods, and they all really go hand in hand. And addressing all of these, or keeping all of this stuff in mind, and even saving this video and watching it over and over again, may be able to help you get the results that you deserve and kind of take off some of those handbrakes. Now, I'm not going into supplements or anything, but those are the main points that I looked at the Handbrakes to Health summary. So watch your insulin spikes. Try eliminate some of that estrogen, that excess estrogen that's going around your body. Make sure you're actively supporting your liver and its subsets, so the organs that help with a good thyroid, or make sure you're supporting your thyroid and then your liver, which supports the thyroid. Make sure that you're getting your sleep and your sunshine and all your other essential vitamins. Make sure you're focused on micronutrients. If you're going to do fasting, don't do it silly, do it properly. Because why would you want to put in all this hard work and not get the results that you deserve? That's just like wasting time, and we don't have as much time as we should have anymore. And then that's it. Wash your hands. Watch out for bacteria. Watch about putting your hands to your mouth in the gym and out and about and stuff. It can make a big difference. Just washing your hands. I've seen people who start washing their hands more, along with following like some other protocols with nutrition and stuff. They can really speed up weight loss. It definitely can. Because you're limiting those bad bacteria. You're not supporting them. You're limiting them. But that's it. I don't want to ramble on too much. I hope you found that helpful. I hope those of you that are asking for the summary from the event, this gave you a nice refresher and you can use the tools going forward. If you've any questions, as always, just reach out to me. Website, Jermaine'sModelHealth.com, Facebook, same thing. And yeah, take care, people, and good luck, everyone, on your weight loss campaign or your health campaign or journey for this new year. Because it's tough. It's tough. And I hate to see people get disheartened and fail when I know they could do so much better if they just had the right information and tools. So I hope you found this helpful and use it. Use the information. Okay, bye everyone. Stay safe and have an awesome year. Bye.